Here's an example of what not to do.
You realize how valuable of a book this is.
The hottest 10 books in the world. Number 10 on the list is Predator #1 from 1989, the first appearance of Predator in a standard-sized comic book. There is a lot going on in 2025 as it pertains to the Predator IP, let alone what's going on in the comic books where Predator's going to be going up against Spider-Man. We have 2 different live-action movies slated for 2025. The first, Predator Badlands, taking place on a different planet, telling the narrative from the perspective of the Predator for the first time. The second, live-action something, has not been released. No announcements. But the only rumor that's circulating is that it connects to the Prey streaming movie that was a large success. The 9.4 is up 42%, the 9.6 is up 6%, the 9.8 is up 13%, selling for $500. $500 on this book seems pretty good, doesn't it? I mean, like, this is a pretty major key and sells for under half what Alien 1 goes for in grade.
I like this book. I like it a lot. I grew up with it. This was the prime for me in the early 90s. I came off watching the movie thinking, whoa, that was spectacular. And then to see a comic blew me away. In fact, Predator #4 was the first comic I ever had signed by an artist at a convention. Chris Warner signed it. God bless you, Chris, because you were amazing at that time and impacted me as a youth. Another impact of $500 on my wallet, that's a lot. I think this book needs to trade around $400 to $450, considering alone that we just had 6 new copies hit 9.8 in the last 3 weeks. It's going to be an ever-growing census. And make sure if you're out there looking for this book in the wild raw, that you check the inside of the front cover, because the second printing is identical, except that it's notated inside that front cover where we'll say second printing.
Support the show directly right now. It's the new year. Hit the like button. While we move on to number 9 on the list with the first appearance of Bullseye in Daredevil 131 from 1976. I've recently completed Daredevil Season 1, rewatching it again, going through Jessica Jones Season 1 right now. I actually started with Luke Cage Season 1. I know it's out of order, but as my favorite season of all the shows, Cottonmouth is so damn cool. I digress. I think this is something everyone needs to re-experience if you are not hyped like me for Daredevil Born Again. Because I can't help but think that this was the biggest missed opportunity over the last few years. As Disney Plus just kind of became subpar for what they were producing, I think this is the area that they need to focus in on. Mature narrative storytelling geared more towards adults and given us what they were able to accomplish during the Netflix era so successfully.
It makes no sense to me why we saw so much success with Netflix and then Disney decided to come in and neuter them. What are you doing? You just saw the pathway of success. So now you're going to take these IPs and not do what you saw worked, which is the oddest thing to me.
Well, we have a return of one of Daredevil's biggest foes. A 3.0 is up 14%, the 5.0 up 6%, the 9.2 up 8%, a 9.6 going for $855 up 7%. Doesn't feel very high, but if you can get this book for closer to $700, $750, I think you're getting a great deal.
Absolutely. Consider $700 a win. This book hit highs of 900 twice in March of last year. It's a perpetual key. It's a Bronze Age key. It's something you should have in your collection.
Just like number 8 on the list with Amazing Spider-Man 316 from 1989. We have a McFarlane cover and the first full Venom cover. I think this book doesn't get enough love for how momentous of an occasion that this is. And I'll throw this out there. Obviously, there's a lot of reasons why people buy ASM 300, but when you really think about it, Venom does appear in 299. ASM 300 doesn't even have him on the cover. It's simply a milestone issue. And then you have 316, which personally I think is the best cover of not just the trifecta, 298, 299, and 300. It's probably the best cover in that era that McFarlane was on title.
Ever since I've started jumping on this list, it's forced me to have to rethink certain books. And I've debated this, 300 or 316. Now, 316 has been a consistent key, and I've seen it gain steam through the years. And we're seeing people buying this book all the time. And the numbers are showing that because we just had a 9.4 go up 22% for a $190 sale. The 9.6 up 3%, and the 9.8 had a $476 sale, up 6%. I know it's a common book. You guys all know it's a common book, all right? We had 5 new 9.8s just in the last 2 weeks alone, but demand is there. And we all know the rule of supply and demand. As long as people keep buying this book, it's just going to keep going up, and people want it in their collection because it's such an iconic cover. And I ask you guys, do you think this is actually a better cover? I'm not saying more expensive, but better than the number 300?
I also want to know if anyone's reading All New Venom right now, because we currently have a Red Hulk situation. We do not know who is wielding the Venom symbiote currently in the comics, and I'm hoping, praying to Thor, that it's Luke Cage, the current mayor of New York. Moving on to number 7 on the list with Amazing Spider-Man 129, the first appearance of the Punisher in comic books. Now, we know we got Jon Bernthal reprising his role in Daredevil Born Again, but we got some very interesting news this past week. Rumors suggested that Kristen Ritter was actually going to be the primary character brought from the Netflix era to join us in Daredevil Born Again Season 1. But because of schedule conflicts, they had to change the narrative, and that's why they brought Frank Castle in, which leads me to believe that we are getting a full reprisal of all the characters. Where's Luke Cage is what I'm saying.
He's busy mayoring. I want to see some Defenders action. This is one of the books we've talked about for the last couple of weeks I've been holding back. Because a 7.5 you could have as low as $1,200. This book used to sell for $1,000 in a 2.0 just a year and a half ago. But today, a 3.0 sold up 6% for $740. The 6.5 is up 10%. The 8.0 is up 7% with a $1,980 sale. The 8.5 is up 25%, and the 9.4 up 10% with a $4,000 banger sale.
Well, something that happens when I'm chatting to my homies like Jeff or Russ or Ryan, we're talking about like comic prices, etc., is we'll just get hyped up about certain books that we're thinking about. And dude, you've brought up first appearance of Punisher multiple times over the last year. Like you have a clear disdain for the current value of this book that's making me feel like you believe that it's too cheap right now.
It is too cheap, Tom. And I live by that. I'm not just saying that. I have 4 ASM 120s, and I'm not just trying to brag. I have 7 ASM 50s. Those are 2 books that are so in the dumps that I refuse to sell them for the prices that they were going for earlier in 2024. I already see 129 rising, and I suspect the first appearance of Kingpin ASM 50 is going to do the same here. Mid 2025 is when I'm probably going to be selling this book.
It's 2025. If you like what we do not have a Patreon. We don't have any type of funding source that you can just pay us for exclusive content or extra videos. No, we make the videos for free, and we're happy to do so. If you want to support the show directly, we're going to send you some comic books every month. Go to comictom.com. We pack a box with 4 to 5 comics every single month and a print. And the exclusive that's guaranteed 1 per box this month is a team up with John Boy Myers, Magic #1. You're guaranteed that book. I got another book that I'm not going to announce until next week, but I'm very excited to talk about them. And let's move on to number 6 on the list with Fantastic 448, the first appearance of the Silver Surfer.
That's a nice book.
We like this book.
We do.
This is a great book, and I think this being on the list, and stay tuned because this isn't the only Silver Surfer key that we're going to discuss today. It shows the focus of investors starting out in 2025. There has been double the amount of money spent in the last 7 days than there were in the last 14 days on major collectibles. We're talking last week's numbers totaling like $30,000. This week, closer to $70,000. Major investments as we go into 2025, largely because people are investing in what's to come. Silver Surfer, the cometh of the Cosmic Rider.
The coming of Galactus.
The 1/8's up 12%, the 3/5, 6%, the 4/5 hit 1101, up 13%, the 8/0's up 4%, and the 9/4 sold for 14,400. That's up 12%, and that's a very strong number for a 9.4. So much so that we had to look on GPA and see what's going on. Although that is a very strong sale, and it is a white pager, I think it has more to do with the lack of availability in 9.6 coming up, and only 4 9.4s coming up in the last 12 months. If you're looking for a high-grade copy of this, there's not a whole lot of opportunities, which is why I think someone would be willing to pony up a little bit more money when the time came to acquire this book, because it is a very nice 9.4.
I'm impressed with that 9.4 sale. And like you said, we haven't really seen a 9.4 sale since April of last year. So this could just be a marker of where the current market is for a book like this.
Which brings us to number 5 on the list with, the next part of the trifecta, Fantastic 449. The second appearance and first cover appearance of Silver Surfer, and the first appearance in full of Galactus. Now, although this isn't the first appearance of the Silver Surfer, this book is way tougher to acquire than issue 48. Let that sink in. This book is a ghost in high grade, and I'm talking like 9.6 and 9.8.
There was a horde of FF48s found at some point in history, and they were sold in the 80s. So that is probably why you'll get some sticker shock when you look at FF49, because you're like, oh, it's the first cover appearance of these 2 characters. But when you actually dissect how much it costs per point, you realize how valuable of a book this is.
Let's compare the two. At a 9.6, issue 48 has 103 copies on the census.
FF49 only has 14 in a 9.6.
And then we have 9.8s of 48 we have a total of 45 copies that exist on the census.
And get this, the 49 only has 2 copies in a 9.8.
Issue 49 had a bunch of strong sales this past week, gearing up for Fantastic Four First Steps. The 4.0 is up 13%, 5.5 up 17%. The 6.0 sold for $860, up 8%. How does an 8.0 going for $2,900 up 29% feel, Guru?
As much as I love this book, and it being part of one of the greatest storylines in Marvel's universe, I think 2,900 is a bit high because 8.5s are around that same price. So I feel that person may have overpaid a little bit. An unbelievable book nonetheless.
The thing is when you go from 8.5 to 9.0, you're hiking that price up a clear $1,000. So there's a little bit of a price discrepancy between 8.0 and 8.5, but the tipping point then goes when you hit that 9.0. So I can see why someone may overpay a little bit. Maybe they were hoping to crack it, press it, and regrade it.
I'm going to spoil it. I'm just going to spoil it. The fact that we have no Hulk 340, no Secret Wars 8, what is going on with this list?
That's right. We have no Wolverine 1, no New Mutants 98. People are looking at an optimistic 2025, and they're investing in things that they haven't all of 2024. Just like number 4 on the list. With Green Lantern 59, the first appearance of Guy Gardner, it took that Superman trailer to put this book over the edge, where it hadn't been on a hot list in years. Nathan Fillion portraying Guy Gardner has continually spiked this book up week over week. The 4.0 is up 14%, the 6.5 22%, and the 7.0 sold for $457, up 16%. We're getting some Green Lantern news this week. Let's not forget, Guy Gardner isn't the only person we're going to be introduced to over the next couple years. It looks like James Gunn is handling this very well, not just with casting, but how he's training the actors.
We know Gunn loves taking things directly from the source material. I mean, those are the physical books that we grew up with and why they even have TV shows and movies, what made them so popular. And I am sure he is instructing his actors and actresses to do the same thing. Aaron Pierre, the one who's going to be starring in the new Green Lantern streaming series, himself stated how he is studying the DC material. And we're seeing that as being something really important to them to portray it as authentically as possible.
Number 3 on the list is Uncanny X-Men 141. We have Days of Future Past Part 1 making the list out of nowhere. We have a 9.4 up 12%, 9.6 up 31%, a 9.8 sold for $1,095. That's up 36%. 8 different sales outdid the recent 12-month average as we enter into 2025, totaling clear over $2,500 worth of monies moved.
People love this freaking book.
It's true, man. This is just definitely one of those books that I don't ever get surprised when it starts to sell well. There's a lot of X-Men keys that you can acquire, but there are very few that were as monumental as this one that's as affordable. You know, I mean, I'm talking like low-grade copies. You can get one for like under $100, you know? But this is definitely a story that gets retold a lot, and it's very similar to like The Phoenix. We're probably going to get another adaptation eventually of this story, to no surprise.
Yeah, I mean, we discussed the FF48 trifecta and how important that was for just a story arc, and it's the same thing. This is as important as it gets for the X-Men title.
Yeah, I'm curious because we know that the FF is going to take place in a different reality or universe, whatever, and they're going to cross over to the 616 eventually. Well, X-Men has to cross over somehow. Do you think it would be too lame for them to cross over from a dystopian future and have to like screw with time and then end up in the 616? Because then there's a reality where this book is relevant again, even though we've already seen this on the big screen.
I'm torn. I pretty much hate the multiverse concept. It bugs me. So I would love to see it wrapped up at some point, but if that's the way we need to get our mutants, then let's freaking do it.
Number 2 on the list, Fantastic 450. We told you we were talking trifecta today. This book does not get the credit it deserves. This, first off, is like the first major Silver Surfer cover. You know, he got a bunch of other people on there. I mean, he does. He got Johnny Storm going to college in the bottom right. But this is a bold Kirby Silver Surfer book, and I think if more people read this comic, they would respect it more, despite it having a brown cover.
The interior to this book is what the whole buildup was between 40 and 49. This unbelievable battle between Galactus and Silver Surfer, you know, this is how I'm going to classify it. It's like when you first start dating somebody. 48, you meet them, okay? 49, you go on your date, all right? 50 is the third date, and we all know what happens on the third date. All right?
You find the ultimate nullifier.
That's right. It's a score.
Well, we have 7 different sales exceeding $6,000. I think there's no surprise right now that we have 3 major FF keys, the Kirby trifecta, kicking off 2025, because the focus this year is the first Marvel family. And DC Comics.
The 6.0 is up 38%. The 8.0 is up 7%. And the 9.0 up 14% with a $3,800 sale.
Here's an example of what not to do. There was a 0.5 incomplete copy that sold for a record price this last week for $119, up 8%. When you can get a 3.0 for $159 to maybe $200 right now. If you're going to spend over $100 on this comic book, don't get an incomplete. Go for a 1 or 2.0 at worst.
I'll preface that unless you have the cover.
Which brings us to the number one hottest book in the world, the first week of 2025. Over 82 sales took place, totaling clear over $15,000. Ladies and gentlemen, hit the like and subscribe button while we talk about the first appearance of Lobo, Omega Man, issue number 3.
82 graded sales. Can you imagine how many raw copies have sold of this book? The excitement for Jason Momoa, which is the perfect casting for this character to hit the screen. And we don't even know when that is because there is no slated date for Supergirl yet where he's supposed to appear.
The 9.4 is up 61%. 12 copies outsold the 12-month average. The 9.6 is up 109%. 20 copies outsold the 12-month average. These numbers are crazy. The 9.8 up 36%, selling for $400. 31 copies outsold the recent 12-month average. These are impressive numbers, but they're not surprising to me because by March of last year, this book was hitting near $500 and then started going down because the announcement took so long to get confirmed. People thought that this was going to happen in May or June, and it took until the end of December to get confirmation that Jason Momoa was going to take on this character. This past week, Jason Momoa posted on Instagram reviewing the script with cigar in hand at campfire. This guy is so stoked, and I want to know your thoughts in the comment section below. Is this not perfect casting? And if you want to win our Omega Men issue 3 Santa Fung variant, we're doing multiple giveaways of this on the trending video this week. And all you need to do is join our SMS group by going to comictom.com. That's the way we can contact you when we do the randomizer and pick your number. We appreciate your time today. As always,
Geek responsibly.
enough said.